you have to delicately assuage people's concerns when they say, well, what do you mean this is like synthetic, like homemade medicine? What is it? You know, you have to be able to answer those questions, because if you say, oh no, it's good, trust me, bro. If you don't trust me, then people are going to fucking die. That is not as, first off, it's not very convincing even to me, but also it's not convincing whatsoever to normies. They're going to go, what? Well, they're not dead. Lefties have a really stupid idea sometimes how journalism works. I hope this isn't going to be the case with Demonmama, and how to deal with journalists. They really do go off their guts. One of the things that I've noticed most often is people getting it like half right and then the other half very wrong when it comes to dealing with journalists, like in the with the protests. The protests, it was crazy. Also, what constitutes a journalist is different too, and people make mistakes with that. My biggest concern, a lot of the times, is when you stop talking. If you create a hostility to the press does not go away. Especially if they are extremely dedicated to getting the story, because it's like the time they will write something. Like this is something I always had to tell people. You can give me no comment when I was a journalist. You can say no comment, but I'm writing the story, and I'm going to say that you said no comment. And people are going to get something from that, right? We're going to say that we tried to talk to you and that you didn't have anything to add. And so people are going to make their own conjectures. We know that that's going to happen. And if you want to get your story out, you have to tell it. And that's just a thing that happens. And it kind of has to, right? Because you don't get to shut down news coverage in the First Amendment because it's not going well for you. For people on our side and off our side. With the protests, this might even be where this is coming from, but it's one of the things that I noticed. It's a really good way to highlight it. The protests on college campuses were half well done and half insanely fucking stupid. One of the stupidest things that people do at these protests is keep masks on. You should not do that. Do not have masks on at protests. People get worried about their faces being discovered or something. First off, if you're in America. If you're not in America, I don't give a fuck what is going on in your country. I'm talking about my specific state, or my specific country. But in America, you should not be protesting with masks on, in a general sense. That was okay during COVID because you had to have them, but understand when everyone's wearing a mask, you can't see who anyone is, right? So if everyone's wearing a mask and someone does something bad, there's no reason to separate that person from the other people because you've already created a sense of anonymity in your movement, right? Sometimes it can work if you're extremely organized. Sometimes it doesn't. So like one of the notable things that came up in the last week or so was some black kid rolled up to a protest and somewhere and said, hey, I love Hitler. Hell higher. Hitler is my N-word. I love Hitler. I hate Jews. Jews are destroying Palestine, that kind of thing. He did that at a Palestine protest, and everyone had to go like, oh. And the people are like, no, he's part of the protest, and you can't really tell because you don't know who the fuck the guy is, right? You created a situation where everybody can be anonymous, and so one of the anonymous people inside of your little crew has now said something. No one has to do the like extra good faith work to try and massage your reputation. You were the one that chose to wear masks and not identify yourselves. Therefore, if someone wants to pretend it's all homogenous or pretend like it's different, that's on them, and they can. And there's literally the thing that you could have done against that, you have failed to do. The other thing that's very irritating is people not saying who they are or their names and doing shit anonymously. You're not on 4chan. If you are going to speak for a group, you should tell everybody who you are. You just literally should. If you're afraid of repercussions, absorb them. Right? If Eugene Debs can go to prison for what he believes in, you can too. And if you're not even going to go to prison, if you're just going to like lose out on like some sort of cushy job, I sack the fuck up and lose out on your cushy job and go fucking They always need people to work at moving companies and rake concrete. You can get work. You can get actually pretty good paying work. So like that entire argument where they're like, these kids are going to ruin their college career. Like, yeah, that's the fucking sacrifice you're making. Shut the fuck. What? I don't give a fuck. I don't care. That shit was bad. One of the good things that people have been doing at these is trying to direct individuals. And I don't know if this is necessarily what, I don't think it actually is even what Demonmama's things are about, but I want to get these kind of points out because this seems where the left is going when it comes to talking with journalists. They have been directing people to spokespeople, which is very good. That does not preclude you from talking to people. Standing silently in front of people who are asking you questions while you wear a mask and like stare at the ground with your arms crossed is a bad look. It just is. It just looks strange. And you're kind of putting yourself in a weird position. Also, if you go to a protest, you should be able to answer at least a few basic questions about it. That's just a general thing. Now, you should also be able to point people in the direction of someone who can speak more for the movement. That's also good as well. A lot of these things have to be done in tandem for them to be actually good. But if someone comes up to you and asks you, like, why are you here? Well, I'm going to make something up right now. I'm here protesting higher bus fare, right? Well, why are the bus fares going up? I don't really want to talk about that with people, but I can put you in the direction of someone that can talk about it. You know, we're just upset about it's called staying on message. It's called, this is messaging. It's why you're out there in public, is to talk to people as a member of the public. Just say, like, we're here to protest the raising bus fares. We are upset that the bus fare is, like, being raised without questioning the people around us, and it's negatively affecting people on the ground. Okay, can I ask you some other questions? I don't want to answer any other questions other than our basic stuff because I'm not prepped to. You can all this can be on a card. You can literally print these cards and hand them out to people. Other organizations do it as well, and it works every time. You can read off the card in front of somebody. And if they ask you, why are you reading off a card and not just answering me like normal? I have anxiety about speaking in public and speaking on camera, and I don't like to do it. So I have this card so that I don't say anything stupid. Like literally just tell the truth and stay on message, and you'll be fine. But we do have somebody who's our actual spokesperson. I would be more comfortable if you spoke with them. If you stay here with me or follow me, I can lead you to where they are. Like, don't you want to talk to somebody who can like have, and then you can take them to people that are trained to talk to the media extensively. Talking to the media just person to person is fine. That's not really like talking to the media. That's just, you know, like when I'm saying like really talking to the press, I mean like having a conversation with them. But even the most basic police officers on the ground will be able to tell you all of these things without saying, like saying no comment and shit is one of the worst things that you can say. By the way, don't ever say no comment in media training. Just literally say, I don't know, or I can't say right now, right? Or I'll have to get back to you on that, because those are all open-ended things and they're actual answers. No comment, usually just understand it means this. Assume whatever question that was just asked to me that I said no comment to has the worst possible answer is really what no comment ends up. But even cops will say stuff that won't be like, some cops will ignore you, and they shouldn't do that. If you're a police officer, don't do that. Just say, you need to talk to my public information officer. His name is this. We can give you a card. If you're a public information officer, give out cards to your officers, because handing a card to somebody with your name on them is a perfect way to answer it. Literally, it's against the rules. It's against protocol, procedures, whatever, for me to directly speak with the press. I'm not authorized to give a statement. You can say that. We're here providing security for the people here, or whatever, you know, like, we just responded to this. It's against procedure for me to give a statement to the press or to talk to you, but I can give you this. This is the PIO's number on this card. You can talk to this person and they will answer any questions that you have, but I can't talk to you about an ongoing investigation. Like that kind of stuff is perfect. That's what you should be doing. Do not be hostile with press. Don't be hostile with like citizen journalists that are like trying to get a rise out of you and stuff. Just be like, you can even ask them like, dude, why are you acting like this? You can do like, just calm down. Like, give me a second. But there should always be a funnel for press questions to go, because they're not going to go anywhere, especially if there's somebody that's highly dedicated to fucking with you. They're just not going to leave. Which one? There's that video of that college professor chasing the Muslim girl and not letting her get away from him. Yeah, that's assault. If somebody assaults you, Jesus Christ. Vague answer, change the topic. I wouldn't say necessarily that as a rule, because that what defines as vague answer? Just literally, if you are going to be part of a movement, first off, if you're going to be part of a movement at all, and you can't talk about it, you're fucking up. That's just that's bottom line. If you're out somewhere doing shit, especially if you're doing shit that's inconveniencing people, you know, like if you're out in the town square that no one needs to walk through or get through, and it's not a big deal, and people are kind of just like walking past you, and you don't know that much, you're just like, I'm just out here to support people. That's fine. If you are like doing shit like taking over buildings or blocking traffic, or you're part of a crowd that has thrown fireworks or smoke or started spray painting shit, and then you say you can't really answer like why you're out here doing this kind of shit, understand people are going to form their opinion whether or not you talk to them, because it's people's First Amendment right to film motherfuckers out in public and talk about it, that you want that to happen. Even if it doesn't benefit you, you want that to be continuously happening. Because that's a right you should never even consider for a moment giving away or impeding. And you are responsible for answering that question. Like literally, if you inconvenience somebody for a fucking moment, you have to have a fucking reason. You better fucking be able to explain it. Those kids that are standing out, you know, like blocking shit on these college campuses. That's not really what it was. If you get deeper and learn more about it, you find out, well, how the fuck they should have fucking explained it. You know what I mean? They're the one that's in public with a camera on them. If they're not fucking, if I can't figure it out from there, and someone else can narrativize for them because it's just some weirdo in a mask not saying anything, blocking people from walking around, why is it on me to try to figure out what the fuck is happening? You know what I'm saying? More to the point, why is it on the average fucking American who's just going to be like, what's going on here? Like, oh yeah, these guys are blocking traffic. You know, you're blocking me. I can't get to my place. Could you get out of the way? I need to go to my class. And yeah, okay, I guess maybe if you're like, oh, Dad, no, sorry, that's not what happened. If you log on to this guy named Hasanabi, he'll scream into a microphone for 25 minutes about how those kids were actually in the right, and like, this is the specific things that were going on. And that person, every normal American, every normal person almost on earth is going to go, well, why didn't they say that? Why didn't they fucking say that? Because, you know, if you stand silently in a mask, not doing anything, people don't know who you are or why you're doing it, and you never say, and someone else says what was happening, people are going to be more inclined to believe the person that's fucking describing the situation, because that's just how your mind works. You have to be in such a, like, you have to be in such a sympathetic place and such a highly knowledgeable place of what's going on at a thing where, without reservation, the point is to raise awareness of something. You already have to have pre-existing awareness to understand what they're raising awareness of. They're fucking up. Like, that's inarguable. You're just fucking up. But like, I want to see what, that's just some of the issues I've had with fucking lefties out there. Some of the shit's good though. Directing people to a PIO of some sort, arranging for press liaisons, very good. There's a lot of not having that for the last few years. Just silently talking to people and walking around in quietly walking around with masks on and not being able to describe, or hostilely or acting with hostility toward people, and not describing what you're doing is like, I don't understand how people don't understand that's crazy. It looks crazy from the outside. And the point is to get people on your side. You know what I mean? If you're just doing it because you want to do it, that's also cool. But I would try to be a little bit more effective. Let's see, Demonmama. I thought I had this in my backup, but we're gonna watch Demonmama's video. By the way, nothing I was talking about is necessarily in this. I haven't seen any of it yet. Never talked to journalists about this from 2 days ago. Oh, cool. It's only 15 minutes long. Thank God. Hey, what's this guy? What's this? Oh, I got a dog butt. Can I get a bunny butt? Oh, hello. Dog toy. Dog toy. The treat rolled down the dog, and now you can't find it. Can you guys see his ears popping? It fell inside the dog's legs as he's laying down, and Sweet Cheeks is like trying to like dig it out from inside of him, and the dog's just like, "What's you doing there, buddy? Are you giving me a little butt kiss?" Okay, boink. Let's get down there. So this is Demonmama talking about never talk to journalists about this.
Something that you no doubt have seen going around if you pay attention to any sort of radical politics in any way, even if you're like loosely interested in leftist politics in America right now, there has been a recurring sentiment that has been circling on social media, through the news and beyond. And that is the idea, ironically, of not talking to journalists. And I want to talk about that a little bit, because a lot of people have this impression like, oh, well, you know, journalists are always good. And, you know, journalists are on your side. They're trying to shine the truth on things. But that is most certainly not true. And unless you know exactly who you're talking to and exactly what they're all about, you put yourself in danger by volunteering information to a journalist. And that is especially true. That is especially true when it comes to issues where there is pre-existing journalistic hostility. Now, in the previous section on the live stream, if you're watching the live stream, if you're watching live,
I don't know who. Well, first off, don't ever assume that any journalist is out to help you. Journalists are out to tell stories. If you know what outfit, if you're ever going to talk to a journalist, you need to know three main things, right? What the story is, what outfit they work for, and who they are, right? And ultimately, the gamble is if every movement benefits overall from excessive contact with journalism. It's how you get the word out about shit. If people don't know things and people are ignorant about stuff and you don't talk to anybody, no one's ever going to learn anything. You are going to get bad coverage, but you got to treat it like, hey, no news is bad news. You really have to shotgun it. Because people that have an agenda will always pursue their agenda, right? So if people are trying to trash trans people, you know, Chaya Raichik is going to be fucking doing Chaya Raichik shit, if I'm saying that name right, until she fucking dies or finds something else or gets permanently deplatformed or something. But she's going to be permanently doing that because that's how she makes her money. So she's always going to be trying to muckrake stuff up. If you ignore all the other journalists who are just like, I'm kind of interested in this and I want to know some stuff, right? Or, you know, like just general mid-tier people, and you don't talk to them, they're not like dedicated to trying to figure out what the fuck's going on with you. They'll probably just move on to another story. So you're always going to have constantly the negative person doing negative coverage of you. And then if you close yourself off to like, talking to anyone else, then you're going to get fucked. You're fucked. Because people aren't going to actively try, generally in the journalism world, to try to do good stories on people unless they're propagandists, right? Which if you're a minority fighting for a cause, it's highly unlikely that you're ever going to be that focus for them. It's just the nature of things for propagandists, because unless it's tied to something that like their candidate or some cause is trying to get ahead. So when you cut out journalists, you're cutting out local people. You're cutting out the kind of individuals that you need to build bridges with, really, if you're trying to get your it's moving up to the next level is really what I'm getting at. If you're just out, if you want to stay on Twitter and talk to fucking nobody, you can do that and no one will ever learn shit, is the answer to that. And then if you want to move up to the next level where you get shit into the mainstream, you have to talk to journalists. It's for you, against you, ones that are dumb, ones that don't know shit. It's just the fact of the matter. And there's going to be bad coverage. And you just have to take the fact that there's going to be bad coverage in stride. That's life. I don't know. I couldn't imagine I couldn't imagine bringing that sort of mentality to like the civil rights movement. You know what I mean? There would be aspects of it. Obviously, you need to be smart with the way that you talk to the press. You need to understand who you're talking to. But if you just back up completely in a general sense, like an overall, that's it for that. You know, because that's not gonna. This isn't gonna be like interpreted at large. Statements like that, I've seen this with the online left, especially. Statements like that aren't going to be interpreted with a like, hey, let's all figure it out like as we go kind of thing. It's going to be a bunch of people that are starting to like, they'll be policing sideways, and it'll be a bunch of like, oh, I can't believe you talked to the press. Didn't you see that Demonmama video where she said don't talk to the press? It's going to be that kind of shit, especially if it gets up to like big, higher level people. But let's
have to go check out my section talking about the pro-Palestine protests all over the U.S. We talked about exactly that. How a whole bunch of grifting, right-wing, scuttling bug monsters.
We're like 20 minutes into this segment, the main subject of her video hasn't really been recognized yet. I think this is a mistake.
Nonsense to try and get gotchas on.
Tyler, I really think this is a preamble about changing hearts and minds. It has nothing to do with the subject of the video. You got to let the lady talk about the specific issue. It's about DIY HRT. I know, but like, we got our headline. We got our preamble. What are you talking about? It's like, it's reaction.
All the time. People like Steven Crowder and Caitlin Bennett and all these people. They show up and they act like they're journalists. They have their little press badges and their cameras, and they tried to get everybody to talk, and these students wouldn't talk to them.
Also, you can't make that argument when I'm already looking at chat and I see I hate journos. Oh, hey, Cherry, you're here too. Don't speak with journo instigators. Depends on the journalist, depends on their boss. Hi, YouTube.
They stonewalled.
I mean, like, if you gotta fucking, you gotta push it up. You know what I'm saying? Everybody, it's an issue. Obviously, you got headlines and then you get your preamble, but like, strong statements, right? I should start bringing this to my own segments too. But like, the point of any of my segments is talking to journalists. But like, never talk to journalists about this as the strong statement. We started talking about journalists at the beginning. I got to make sure your premises are accurate, so I'm gonna have to stop on every premise and talk about whether or not I agree with them before we even get to the heart of the matter, which is the case.
Politely, mind you. They said, sorry, we don't want to talk to you. But they all agreed, we're not going to talk to journalists. And they did that because...
Chariot says, reporting on DIY HRT inherently threatens life-saving care for legal reasons. What you're saying undermines life-saving care for trans people because you haven't gotten to the core topic. I don't think that's possible. How is that possible? Isn't that like that's a crazy bridge to cross or to build? I'm just saying, you have to prove that. Also, you got to that point way faster than Demonmama has so far. That should be the subject of it. This is the issue. I know clickbait titles, and I do it too. Maybe I should stop. I think I gotta stop doing it. Well, then also, I just fucking forget what fucking segments are about. Yeah, I just don't see that though. And also, like, it doesn't really matter how long I've been talking, right? You know what I mean? Like, if we're 20 minutes into my segment and I haven't gotten to her point, like, I can still keep listening to her. I don't understand. You would have to be. You have to. How in the fuck am I hurting trans people? That's such a fucking leap. And like, honestly, if your video is so inaccurate from title, if it's that important, then you should frontline the important stuff in that video. Like, this video should be, hey, immediately, like, if people are going to die, if it's a life or death thing, if it's life or death, you should have life or death. This is life or death at the beginning, because I will pay attention. But if me pausing a video to go over the earlier premises of something before she gets to the core of something is causing harm, then like I'm reacting to the video like I've reacted to any other video. So like, and I think anybody else would too. Oh, okay, I kind of agree with that. I kind of don't agree with that. Whatever. Maybe I'm bored. Maybe I don't want to listen to this anymore, kind of deal. So like, if it's that important, you got to fucking front load the shit out of that, right? But we're burying the lead here. This is called burying the lead. This is journalism shit. You know, the segment should start with, journalistic coverage of DIY HRT is killing trans people. Like, you should, it's your responsibility if something is that important to front load it. You know what I mean? You shouldn't be doing a rolling preamble where you're talking about an entire profession and making certain statements that have to be clarified and qualified and double checked, at least in my opinion, before you get to the very important thing. That's just, I don't see a way around that. I'm trying to do some mental work here. Like, this is like, if it wasn't you, Chariot, I wouldn't have stopped. But I gotta say,
they know that the media environment right now is a propaganda machine. It is a machine for manufacturing consent. Now, if you're not familiar with the term manufacturing consent, the term manufacturing consent refers to a process by which mass media, television, etc., is used to essentially create for you your consent. So think about it like this. The government, there's a protest movement that is inconvenient for the government. The government wants to crack down. So they, maybe they give out some information. Sometimes it's direct, sometimes it's indirect. Maybe it's people who are friendly to the powers that be, some government agencies that benefit a lot from the current president. And they show up and they decide, hey, why don't we make these guys out here protesting, why don't we make them look like they're dangerous and scary? Then everybody will be fine if we crack down on them. That's the process of manufacturing consent. It is creating the...
I've got to actually just, I need to stop. There is something about the manufactured consent angle of stuff. I've got to just read Noam Chomsky's thing on it, because I have heard it gone over by, I think, every person on the left, and I've heard a lot of different versions of how it's done and what happens, and I have actually just been in the journalism game, and none of it equates whatsoever to things that actually happen on the ground. It just sounds very conspiratorial. I haven't read Noam Chomsky's thing, but on the ground, my opinion on every time I hear lefties talk about it, it really just sounds like manufactured consent is when journalism does not benefit my cause. Really is how it comes across, just like journalism that is not directly benefiting my cause is manufactured consent. I mean, even the way that she articulated it, I don't know how that would happen. You would have to prove that, which I guess maybe Noam Chomsky does, but that's so conspiratorial. Like, first off, a lot of times protesters make themselves look bad. Just because people don't know how to be in public in a way. Being angry about something in public with a lot of other people can very instantaneously turn into mob type shit. Doesn't matter who you are, on my side, away from my side. Just being upset for the first time in public and not knowing how to explain yourself. All protesters that don't have training in protesting or talking to other human beings, if you've just been working at the fucking Tasty Freeze and you're 19 and that's the only job you've had, you talk to a few customers and now all of a sudden you're trying to explain your deepest political beliefs to some other guy while cops have been kind of like, edging closer. Obviously, you might not, unless you're a fucking really well put together person, you're not going to be putting your best foot forward just off of nerves. You know what I'm saying? It's an extremely difficult position to be in, and people don't understand that before they get into it. A lot of times protesters don't need help from an outside source to look bad. It's just the case on every side of the issue. That's why you always can find somebody at one of these crowds that's willing to do a all gas, no brakes interview. You know what I mean? So like, oh yeah, dude, I'll say racist shit right now, and I'll spit fucking some sick bars for you. Like that's just human nature, right? I think manufactured consent is at a much, much higher level. From what I remember hearing the few Noam Chomsky things talk about it, not from any of these guys, mostly from Friendly Jordies, where it's more along the lines of the government releasing information and kind of coordinating with a few specific journalistic sources who may be on, if not on a payroll, on a friend roll at the very highest levels, trying to cover stuff in a certain way. The closest thing to manufactured consent going on right now, I would say, is probably just a lot of the handshake agreements between people at the highest level about Israel-Palestine. Like, yeah, like all the people they're talking about international news all went to the same fucking 3 schools together. They're all fucking intermarried and shit, you know. Anderson Cooper gets on TV and argues with a few people, but I guarantee you half of the people he argues with, he's been to their weddings, kind of deal. I think the thing is that leftist cause, which is anti-capitalism, will never fully align with a journalistic firm as it's for profit. That just like, that's difficult. First off, wrong. Maybe unless you were saying unless the news agency, the news org is for, but not all news orgs are for profit. They're just not. 2 good examples are Louisville Public Media. 3 good examples: Louisville Public Media, the Louisville Center for Independent Reporting, and the Kentucky Lantern are all nonprofits. So nonprofit news sources are everywhere. And all journalists and mainstream news, that includes nonprofit news organizations. The NPR and NPR affiliate stations, of which Louisville Public Media is one of them, they are often nonprofit, and you are including all of them in that as well. Dude, the amount of y'all motherfuckers have a lot of opinions on the left about journalism and not a lot of subscriptions to newspapers or news orgs. I'm just going to say, there's a lot of people, I guarantee you I could get Vosh fired up for about 2 hours talking about journalism. And that motherfucker has probably not touched a newspaper unless it was wrapped around fish and chips in maybe like 15 years. Who knows how long. Is ProPublica for profit? I have no idea. I have to look up every single one.
The a emotional environment, a propagandistic tool by which your consent is taken from you by basically telling you, well, of course you need us to crack down. Look at what they're going to do to you. Can't you see these dangerous protesters? And this is where not talking to journalists,
I gotta say, with all due respect for Demonmama, source cited. I need what in the fuck are we talking about?
To the media comes in, and there's another circumstance in which not talking to the media should be engaged in. And that is around the topic of DIY HRT. We're going to talk about this full story in just a second. But for those who don't know, DIY HRT is an acronym that refers to do-it-yourself hormone replacement therapy. For many, many trans people globally, the governments that they were born under and are oppressed by do not allow them fair, free, and medically necessary access to the medicine that they need to live their lives fully, truthfully, and healthfully. Okay? This is incredibly common. Unfortunately, it is even becoming common all over the US. We had a brief window where it seemed like there was some progress being made, and a couple of states are pretty solid when it comes to HRT access through standard medical means, but many, many states are having, let's just call it severe tyrannical turns when it comes towards trans people. There is a derangement afoot about trans people that has largely been spurred on by right-wing propagandists who have a religious motivation, a moral motivation. That they believe that it is immoral to be trans, and they are trying to put that into law to force it on everyone else, whether you agree with them or not. And yes, exactly. People in chat are bringing up Planned Parenthood, and if a journalist is asking you about Planned Parenthood, if a journalist is asking you about being trans and going to Planned Parenthood, don't talk to them. Don't say anything. Don't do anything at all. Just say, sorry, I'm not interested in talking to you about that. There are all kinds of ways.
Don't say that phrase. Okay. Don't say that phrase. Don't say I'm not interested in talking to you about that. Because very often that is probably a lie. You might because if you are convincing yourself to not talk to somebody about something, then you were already interested in talking to them about it. Don't say I'm not interested in talking to you about that, because obviously you're interested in the topic if it affects you. If you say, I'm not interested in talking to you, then what would interest you in talking is kind of like that. Once you do start, if you say fucking anything to the, if you say anything to the press, and if you think I'm nitpicking right now, I'm not. I'm telling you right now. Take this away from me. Go find 3 PR people who do public relations specifically, and then run it by them and get their opinion on it. Don't say I'm not interested in talking to you, because if you give a motive for conversations about something, then they get in Demonmama. You're talking about talking to the press. You have to be highly specific, highly fucking specific with what you're telling your audience. You have to be. This is on you. Saying I'm not interested in talking to you about that implies a motive where you would be interested in talking to somebody about something, which implies something about the article or about the person. They can take the phrase, I'm not interested in talking to you about that, and do some shit with it, right? Also, somebody said it seems rude. Also, maybe possibly true. If you can say, I'm not comfortable speaking with you about that. That is better. Just imply a lack of comfort. I'm not comfortable. I don't understand the kind of story you're trying to write. Even that's fucking a lot. If you're trying to cut off topics with a journalist and you were talking to them already, as in like you're face to face, which you have to end a conversation. If they just write to you and send you a message, just ghost them. Literally don't reply at all. Don't reply at all. If you're in an anonymous and they send you an email or they send you a DM or a fucking comment on something, literally ignore it. Just pretend it didn't fucking happen. Just pretend, just ignore it, right? Most of the time, unless they are dedicated to talking to you, like, what can they say? I sent them a message, but they never responded. That's fine, right? If you're trying to literally not talk to somebody, that. If you're in person, be polite all the time. Don't preemptively assume that you have the right to be rude with random people because they're pressing some level of question with you that you're uncomfortable with. You might, first off, if you're already prepared to be rude and to be like, I'm winning one for the team kind of thing, and you're getting ready to snap at somebody, you might be on video and you might come off really fucking mean or condescending, which leftists, please stop being condescending. Challenge level impossible. But also, don't phrase an intent, because an intent can suggest that you would be talking to somebody else if they were going to be like taking your side or something, right? Or you're like, oh, you're going to be lying, and they can literally quote you, right? Just say, I'm not comfortable speaking with the press. I am nervous about talking to people, and I feel like I'll stutter and stumble over my words, and I don't want to say anything. I just don't. We have someone else that can talk to you about that, or whatever. Or you can just say, I don't have time. I don't have time to talk to you right now. Like, literally, you can just say, I don't have time to talk to you right now. When are you going to have time? I don't know. Direct statements that are closed-ended, that end the conversation, is where you want to head stuff. Don't say anything that can be inferred. Don't do anything cute. Don't do anything rude. Don't do anything mean. Literally just say, I don't want to talk to you is okay. I just don't want to talk to you about this. Like, I don't want to talk to you about this would be even better. Just because, and then just say, like, because I'm nervous. I just don't want to talk to you because I'm nervous. But they're like, I have no interest in talking to you. It's just such a strange phrase. Can I direct you to our media liaison is great. Do you think I can't speak to that right now is appropriate? No, because one thing that you don't want to do in interpersonal communication, especially like quotable interpersonal communication, and people will make mistakes. You will make mistakes about this. So try to put it where you can. Don't infer a timeline because they can put in a timeline. So I can't do it right now means that I can do it some other time. I don't have time is I don't have time. You know what I mean? Like, just say like, nah, I just don't have time. I don't have time. You know, whatever, like back up. Nah. But like if you open it up, right? Try to keep it short, try to keep it clipped, and literally just be honest. As honest as you can without getting your personal feelings or making any statements relative to this subject. And there's no absolutes, but so like, you know, someone comes up to like, hey, I want to talk to you about, so you're here talking about DIY HRT or no, even better. So you're here at Gay Pride. You're here at Pride Week. What are your thoughts on DIY HRT? And you can just say like, oh, I'm just here. Like I'm just here to show my support, and I don't have time. I don't have like training to talk to people like you. I just want to ask you a few questions. I'm really not comfortable talking with press, but we have someone who talks with press. I am really not comfortable talking with the press. I just don't like talking to people. I just don't like talking to people, and I'm nervous about talking to the press. I have a fear of talking to the press. You know what I mean? You can kind of just like be honest in that way, you know? If you start saying stuff, this is the issue with the kind of like, if you kind of get into the condescending rhetoric that some people get into, you see it online. Like, I just don't have time for you right now. You know what I mean? Like, I don't like want to talk to you. I just don't, no. What are your story on? Like that kind of, and you get like a little bit combative. That can be used against you. Nothing's perfect, but just try to be honest. And just say nothing about what their question is. Literally, I cannot answer your questions is perfect. I cannot answer your questions because I don't like talking. I can't talk to people like you. You know what I mean? Like I can't answer questions. I'm too nervous. Because that answers the follow up. You know, I can't talk to you. I'm too. I don't like talking to press people. But there's someone else that can. That's a judo flip. That moves them on to someone else, right? Yeah. Can I direct you to our media liaison, our media person? No is okay. No can work. But like, yeah, you can also just say, I don't want to talk to you. You can't just say like, I don't want to talk to you. I don't want to talk to you. That's honest. Like, I don't want to talk to you. Like, that's fine. That's such a human thing to say. One of the biggest deals is I would say, don't try to get yourself wrapped up too much in getting flowery with it either. But if you're going to be out in public and you know you're going to be in a situation where you're representative of a movement directly, you know, if people are just trying to come up to you at something like Pride, right? Which is, I think, an actual situation that might come up. You know, you're at Pride, you think you're safe. Someone, lady, fucking journalist comes up and you're like, oh, okay, this is some chick. She's going to ask me something about Pride. Hey, can I talk to you? 3 questions. It'll usually be... They'll ask you 3 questions about stuff. They'll be like, hey, what brings you out here today? Oh, you really like Pride? Okay, cool. I see that you're with your friend. Are you guys like together? What do you think about, so, you know, like it's a little difficult out here. What do you guys think about the DIY HRT stuff? Like, that's how it's couched. If you just don't want to talk to journalists, you can say like, I just don't want to talk, you know? And if you do know about stuff, fucking rock and roll, fucking answer it, whatever the fuck. But, if you are out there and you're part of an org, especially, literally, if you're in an org, write people a fucking little card, and they can look at their card and just be like, oh, okay, yeah, sorry, like I am too nervous. I'm not good at talking in public. We have a public information officer, and they can answer any questions from the press. Just like literally push them in the way. But it's really difficult to do. I will say that, but. Yeah, now I'm off on the whole thing. I'm trying to give you guys I'm trying to give you guys maximal PR training, but this is how difficult that area can be. 3 questions. What is your name? What is your question? What is the airspeed velocity of an unladen swallow? African or English? How the fuck am I supposed to know? So maybe no thank you, not today. Like they're a solicitor. I still would try to like keep it off of a timeline. The reason for the timeline stuff and the open-endedness is some people are I was really good. I was a fucking dangerous journalist for my little bit of time that I did it. And I would pump people. I would get information out of fucks. People that are really, really good at it, the reason for the questions isn't just like that they'll shut it down. Like when you say like I don't want to talk to people when I'm nervous about like having conversations in public, that puts a person that's talking to you, especially one that's on camera, in a bad position of looking like a bully, right? If you just say like I'm literally too scared to talk to people in public that I don't know, like literally stranger danger, that gives you a very strong out, especially if you're on camera or even a secret camera. A guy like me, when I was a journalist, and don't worry, I wasn't picking on trans people at fucking Pride. I went after fucking local politicians and stuff all the time. I would pump you if you said something like, "I just don't want to talk about this today." Like, well, you're gonna have to talk about it. Like, when do you want to talk about it? Like, when's gonna be a time for you to talk about it? When you say something like that and you open it up, that's a question that you kind of have to ask. Well, I don't know. I don't know what I can talk about. So you don't know when you can talk about this? Do you not? Is it not important for you? You know, and like now you're like, shit. If you say something, if we get back to her question, you know, her response, you know, I'm just not interested in talking to you. Like, well, why aren't you interested in talking to me? Like, do you not want people to know more about your cause? You get into where like I'm grilling, and somebody like me, I know this might sound like it's not. I can get people going, right? And I might ask you 3 or 4 questions before I even pull my notepad out. It's like, hey, can you mind if I write some of this down? I already know what I asked you. I already got those answers too. Mind if I talk to you about this? Blah, 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 blah. And you should also know how to say stuff like fucking, you know, hey, this is strictly off the record. You know, off the record isn't like off the record is not a legal term. I'll just put it that way. Off the record is a professional term. So if you're a nobody and you're never going to talk to somebody again, don't worry about it. Off the record means next to nothing. Because if they burn their connection with you, they probably don't care. So don't ever say, you know, this is off the record to somebody and expect it to be off the record. Especially if they're not like a journalist, like an actual, like a newsy, like a journalist. If there's somebody that does, you know, politics reporting or talking head shit, they don't give a fuck about that half the time. The card thing works really well if it also has the person that they should talk to. Yeah, it has to have those cards. I've seen those before a bunch of times, and a lot of times I've seen them is with like police officers or first responder types, and they have it with, you know, what you can say, and sometimes it'll be the whole thing like, hey, I can give you this card and you can talk to the person. I'm sorry, this is all I'm like literally permitted to say to somebody. And you can have the whole speech on there and hand it to somebody, and then they'll have the guy's name on the back of it or something, or you can have that card and then have another card with them. That's playing the game as opposed to just shutting it out. Because the thing about this is the game is always going. The game is always going. Even if you try to like not move your piece, so to say, you're still on the board.
To have your voice heard on trans issues. For example,
it always comes back to leftist decorum with Tyler. It always comes back to decorum with me. It's a good thing to have. Dude, like, not being boorish is such an important thing. You're a big guy. I can imagine you were a pretty intimidating journalist. I would stand back really far, and I wouldn't hover over people. Most of my size helped me because I was going into areas where I was usually outnumbered. You know, I was like, when you're a journalist, you're almost never the guy that has the authority in an area. So, you know, I'm like going out to oil rigs in the middle of North Dakota to talk to people, and like going to like this or that like warehouse to interview a guy. It just helps you being a little bit more confident. But very rarely do I think I actually manage to fully intimidate people, except for the times the guys showed up to try to fight me.
My doctor is a public clinic that is that has liberatory roots. Okay, it was founded by a political org and became a public clinic over time. They are explicitly in their charter devoted to anti-discriminatory policies. If they send me a survey, an anonymized survey that asks me to talk about my experience going there as a trans person, I'm going to do it because I can trust this organization and I know what their goal is. When it comes to media, you got to be very careful. You got to be very careful when it comes to journalists. Recently, The Guardian.
When she's sped up a little bit, Demonmama has the same speech pattern almost as Xander
UK journal that has a very, very spotty history
Maybe Xander
on its coverage of trans issues recently started asking for interviewees about DIY HRT. And I want to read about this. This is a message that was circled around social media among trans people. Important. I have been reliably informed that Guardian...
Can I just tell you right now, the mistake's done. The mistake is done. If you're afraid of your movement being misrepresented, don't put out something roughly equivalent to a public statement that's a photoshopped. Literally, do not talk to journalists. Call them, say that they're snooping around trying to find out more about DIY HRT. It might come off a little suspicious.
Around,
I'm just
asking
saying.
for trans people to talk to them about DIY
I saw this,
HRT.
actually.
They are particularly looking for under 18s doing DIY. Shouldn't need to be said, but do not engage.
Oh, by the way, if you're a literal minor, just say I'm a minor. I'm a minor and I talk to my parents. Literally. I'm a minor, talk to my mom and dad. I literally, by the way, don't identify yourself as a fucking minor in my community. You're kicked the fuck out. But also, if you're underage, just literally say, I'm underage and I can't, you should talk to my parents. Literally just, I'm underage, you should talk to my parents. You're done. I don't know what the rules are in Britain. I know that British fucking news journos are fucking weird. That's a whole different system. Britain's fucking bizarre. They have the worst. There's an ongoing joke. Oh God, I can't remember how it goes, but basically the punchline is every British newspaper journalist is just finding a nice sunny spot to blow their brains out. Because like it's the most miserable place to do journalism. All of the British journalists I know have moved to America to do anything away from Britain that they can, because it sucks so bad over there. If their rules are different, I don't know. In America, it would be extremely suspicious. I think most of the newspapers I worked for, I would be fired, with notable exceptions of very few exceptions. If I just reached out directly to speak to children. It's not like necessarily illegal, like it's covered even under our First Amendment right to go and ask a kid questions, but it's considered so gross and so weird that you would very likely endanger your future reputation. The most of the exemptions I know were because I was an education reporter and I was also alongside like school sports guys, high school football, high school basketball. You go down, you can ask the coach and then some people. Usually even that, though, the children are under the supervision of the coach. Anytime I talked to kids, it was under the supervision of their teacher and stuff. And I mean, for like, one of my favorite stories ever was, because it was unironically adorable. I think they were kindergartners and they had grown butterflies over the winter, and it was the butterfly release day, and I got to talk to a bunch of little bouncing 4 and 5 year olds, whatever the fucking age of kindergarten is, and they were like, "It's my butterfly. Her name is Rebecca." And they try to throw it, and the butterfly's like, "I'm not ready." Butterfly day. But like trying to talk to kids about deep personal medical issues is psychotic. I don't know. I would need evidence to even see that was happening. I mean, more than likely, if I had to guess, it was probably if I looked into this, my gamble would be that the Guardian put out a story feeler, which is just a thing that people do. The Guardian will put out like on its website or on its social media, "Hi, we're looking for people ages this to talk to us about their experiences with hormones, or DIY HRT, whatever it is, what have you." I would say that's okay. It's just the landmines. I would say that there's a landmine right there. That's fine. That's the easiest one to deal with because all you got to do is not engage with it at all. It's kind of this is crazy. Like if they were actually, I don't even know how. Like literally think about this logistically. How the fuck do they know that you're under 18 on HRT? Like, is there an actual journalist that the Guardian? Like, because that's unironic. This is a story for me. I want to know this. Is there a Guardian journalist who is sending DMs to children about if they're on fucking hormones or not based on like what, like their Twitter profile or something? That, if that's happening, that's the story. That's fucking crazy. Because that is just insanely invasive. From what I understand, I think that's not too crazy for the British. So, you know, I can't give you too many rules for them. Their entire news setup is crazy. Like, they don't have the First Amendment, but you can just slander people if you just are assumptive or something like that in your language. You can be like, who knows what happened? It could have been that she ate 15 hot dogs and puked into her own mother's mouth, but we'll never know. And that's fine. But if you say like that she did it and it actually even happened, but for some reason her vibes are off, she can sue you. It's very strange. They can be slapped with a lawsuit for reporting stories that make rich people look bad. I know you're being like cute with that, but I do need to know the actual information. I loved the butterfly release when I was a kid. That was so much fun. I never got to do one. Journalists pressuring kids puts their narrative about their narrative, I think is what you meant to say. It sounds like what groomers do. It's very strange. Actually, now that you mention it, yeah, that's interesting. Is someone in the British press actually doing that? Now I'm wondering, because I know how to put together stories. You only have so much time. A lot of places will put out something very similar to a call sheet, especially larger news orgs, but even smaller ones will do it if you're trying to get like, basically, if you're trying to sort of like do like almost like a poll story where you're like, we're trying to get people's genuine like opinions on this, and then you can call it and do it. But in those cases, I would say engage with it if you are an activist. Like, unironically, those are great opportunities for actual activists to talk to those things. I mean, you might not be, I don't know, I would have to see specifically what the call sheet is. I'm kind of assuming that one exists because I otherwise, you know, what journal, I feel like this person wouldn't put this together without saying what journalist it was. But like, as a journalist, cold calling people is very difficult. It's just like in sales. And cold calling people about things that when you got to ask them about like their personal lives is very fucking difficult. And so like if you have X amount of time to put a story together, and that's a crucial part about it, like how do you measure out how much time until you eventually hit pay dirt and get somebody to respond to you? Because you're not even asking for the specific opinions of a person that you know is there. You're trying to hunt them down, and you have to assume, based specifically only on like what, you know, information that's public, maybe you can find one or two people who are like, you know, publicly, like, I'm a minor that's on HRT and this is my YouTube channel. Fucking, what is the statistical anomaly that's around that? Jesus fucking Christ. I'm like literally just trying to figure out how to put together that fucking story is insane. So yeah, if I was even going to try to do that story, you know, thinking like, hey, you got to do op4 shit, I would put out a call sheet for, hey, anyone that's around this, please like hit us up if you're one of these people. Those are unironically great opportunities. It's like literally, hey, here's a literal minefield, right? But good public perception is on the other side of it. That is a great place for people that are really well spoken and knowledgeable on the issue to get past the masses and talk. Because when you do have a call sheet like that, people will answer it, and they can only talk to so many people and put so many people in. So it is going to be your detransitioners will show up for it, and your liars who are making shit up and stuff. So just understand that if those call sheets like that are being put out, and people that aren't on top of it and ready to talk to people and tell the stories that trans people need told, if you don't get people out there to do that are really good at that shit, that is a lost opportunity, because the story's probably going to get filed anyway.
Spread widely, do not engage. We need this notice. I
will say that this is very, very much a bad look. This is strange. Who? Let's see. I guess the Guardian DIY HRT hit piece finally came out. I got to see that.
Spread out via every grassroots support group and social circle in the country. Urgent. If they get even one to take part, it can become a national conversation. Top alert. Don't talk to the journos. Share this widely. And of course, the reason for this is because journalists with an agenda are becoming very interested in DIY HRT. And they have all kinds of things to say about it.
I've actually becoming very interested in DIY HRT myself. I was actually getting ready to try to do a little bit of a research stream on it because it's so strange. I was looking it up like last week because like what in the fuck is it? You know what I mean? And I've gotten too many different answers. No one has to answer in the comments. Don't worry about it. And why are all these things located in South America? And that all got back to the development of the pill, by the way, if you guys didn't know this. Synthetic hormones are often derived from, especially synthetic estrogen is derived from yams, gigantic fucking South American yams. And that's why a lot of those synthetic hormone places are down there, is because that's where you can grow them. For whatever reason, the yams have like 500 times the amount of whatever it is you need to boil down to make it. And then that, basically the guy that did it found that out, and then he synthesized a version that was injected, and then that got better and better, and they synthesized a version that was so strong it could be taken by mouth, and that's where we got the actual literal first birth control pill. It's from down there. So some of the sideways attacks on DIY hormones and hormone stuff is because people are trying to destroy the pill still. And they found out that a way to attack the pill is via DIY HRT, so to say, or at least just even any hormone developments in that area. Women are from Vuvuzela, true. Yams giving me yams. Yams is the power that be. You can smell it when I'm walking down the street.
Now I'm going to say my part about DIY HRT. DIY HRT unequivocally, unquestionably saves lives. No questions asked. The science is on my side, okay? We know that HRT is medically necessary for trans people. We know it has been scientifically proven that HRT reduces suicide rates, reduces rates of mental health issues, and increases the likelihood of thriving and survival among trans people. When a government, a tyrannical government of one form or another, regardless of what they call themselves, decides to put undue restrictions on HRT, or to outright ban it, this kills trans people. Therefore, DIY HRT saves trans lives. DIY HRT is largely, there are entire networks of understanding, documentation, and safety that go in to ensuring that DIY HRT can be accessed safely and knowledgeably. Okay? These things exist, and you can find them if you want to, okay? And if you need to, and you should, okay? That's my part about it. There are a bunch of people out there, ranging from concern trolls to outright enemies of the trans community who wish for trans people to disappear. There are all kinds out there who spread misinformation about DIY HRT that can be easily disproven with factual information, so long as you take the time to look into it.
This is the issue with this messaging. That's the issue with this messaging. Is the immediate response to that is, well, if it's so easy, then why shouldn't every trans person just be talking about it? If it's just a few facts that can convince anybody, and like the facts are on your side, then why can't any trans person just talk about it? You got to watch out if you ever try to pick a fucking fight with journos. To quote an ancient bit of knowledge, never pick a fight with somebody that buys ink by the barrelful. Internet blood sports are low risk in the grand scheme of things, because usually the only thing that ends up getting hurt in most internet blood sportsy type arguments is the person. So, doing shit like moral grandstanding and like saying, hey, I'm on the right side of history, the facts are on my side type shit is fine on the internet. Who gives a fuck? But this is speaking for a community. You know what I mean? Like, if you're not me, I'm giving you I'm giving you the most. I think I'm extremely charitable right here. I'm not even really calling anyone out. But if I wanted to put the trans community on blast, I could use this video pretty easily to do it by just saying, like, yeah, these people say that it's really easy. They're saying it's really easy to get it, but it took her like 10 minutes so far, almost 10 minutes to get to to say that there's all these facts and stuff, but they didn't bring them up. And they say that don't talk to anybody. They even say that they were snooping around. What do they mean by snooping around? These journalists just want to know what everyone else wants to know, and that is what even is DIY HRT. A lot of the issues with lefties is that the messaging starts bad at their streamers. With all due respect to Demonmama, I'm not saying like she's like the worst person ever or anything. This is hard shit to get around because you feel like you're media ready because you get on TV all the time, but it's an entirely different ball game. An entirely different ball game when you get into anything in the ballpark of the fucking MSN. It's all normie shit. It's all centrist liberal stuff. People they're not on your side. Sometimes they don't even know what the fuck you're talking about. And I gotta say, DIY HRT is going to be the talking point coming up because I've heard it come up too many times. Every time I see this, it ends up being a whole thing. I remember being like, okay, trans people are cool, whatever the fuck, I don't give a shit, like 6 years ago. And then all of a sudden I heard people actually talking about them on the other side. And the second that happened, and people are like, why are they all of a sudden interested in it? That became the whole fucking thing. Knowing even a little bit about what I know about this shit, that attacks against DIY HRT and against non-clinical HRT or hormone manufacturing is a way to directly impede access to and the widespread sale of the literal birth control pill. That is a fucking win-win, 2 birds with 1 stone type fucking vector of attack for righties. So if you don't want to talk about this shit, I got to tell you, I think it's going to be coming up more and more and more and more. Thank you, Keffels, for skyrocketing, using your bad reputation to skyrocket conversations about DIY-HRT into the fucking normie mainstream, at least on our section of the internet. I think it's going to become a major talking point, and I think people are going to need to know more about it, myself included, because just because trans people are for it, I'm like, okay, they probably know what they need, so I'm for it too. I don't give a shit. But I am going to need to know how to talk a bit more about it, which is why I read fucking like a quarter of a book's worth of the history of hormone development in the world. It's not even just America. And found out about giant yams and the creation of the birth control pill, which, should have learned more about recently. But knowing what the DIY is and all that stuff, really people need to get ahead of the DIY aspect of it, because it just sounds like, homemade medication. It sounds like homeopathy, like it's not that serious too. There's just a lot of messaging things around it that make it sound rough. I'm not on your side. This is me. I'm literally discussing threat simulation with you guys at this point. Tyler, what do you think will be the next trans people in the conservative line of attack? I don't know what you mean by that. Oh, who's the next trans creator they might attack? I couldn't even begin to speculate. Keffels was just unique in that Keffels was awful kind of in every direction. So she isolated herself in a bunch of different ways and then happened to have, it's kind of like a happy accident that she had other things with her that like righties could hyper attack. That whole fucking HRT stuff with her is doing. That's why they didn't care about none of the ones that I saw. Like I saw Demonmama talking about it. She's the one that had all of the like, Keffels doxes her own people and Keffels holds on to like scandal sheets to try to like influence people. That was not the focus of the other people. The focus of the other people's stuff was Keffels is literally trying to harm people's children by giving them bad medicine. Literally, like uncontrolled, and that's their concern, and that's a very valid concern on its face. It's just like, okay, yeah, you have to delicately assuage people's concerns when they say, well, what do you mean this is like synthetic, like homemade medicine? What is it? You have to be able to answer those questions. Because if you say, oh no, it's good, trust me, bro. If you don't trust me, then people are going to fucking die. That is not first off, it's not very convincing even to me, but also it's not convincing whatsoever to normies. They're going to go, what? Well, they're not dead. What do you mean? You know, they don't have 10, 15 years of messaging on this. You know what I mean? They haven't this isn't their lived experience. And a lot of people will be sympathetic. You just have to approach them from the right direction. You have to know what the fuck you're doing. And you do have to get out ahead of these conversations. Unironically, I would consider hey, never talk to the normies about this major issue that the right is going to be relentlessly talking to normies about. Never talk to the normies about him. Hide away and keep your story to yourself so that the normies don't hear you. Okay? Now, the right is going to literally make up shit. Fucking Tyler, what group is going to be targeted next? I think we're going to stick on trans people for a long time. I think trans people are going to be the focus of right-wing attacks for a long time because they are a very much you get a lot of work. You get a lot of fucking work out of attacking trans people from the right. First off, trans people need hormones, right? And attacking the hormone industry is an attack against the pill. It's also an attack against contraception, other forms of contraception, and other types of like Plan B, I believe, is a hormone thing that's made through the same sort of stuff. Like all of that Planned Parenthood stuff is also relative to trans issues, right? So you can hit LGBT people, you can call everybody fucking pedos and groomers and shit. You can attack an industry that produces the thing that you don't want to exist, that gives women independence. So like, it's kind of a win-win-win-win-win. And if you keep trans people from fucking telling their story and like being out there and just being like an observable part for cringe or for better of the world, then you can just say whatever the fuck you want. You can just make shit up.
And right now, journalists are participating in a push against DIY HRT. And the reason for that is because the UK government is cracking down on trans people right now. The UK government already has a notorious history. I should also state, sorry, before I go on, so are red states in the United States. It is not quite as severe in most places of the United States as what is going on in the UK. However, in some states in the United States, it is absolutely just as severe. There are a number of red states that have been drastically attacking trans people's access to HRT. With that said, because of this, journalists who are in line with the powers that be are trying to figure out how trans people get access to their medicine. If it's, not through the official corridors. Now, I want to point something out for those who might be a little concerned here. In the UK, the official corridors for getting HRT can sometimes mean years of wait time. Years of wait time for a scientifically proven, medically necessary medicine. That is asking to kill people. That is a killing list. That is a choking people out until they die. You are putting people at risk, making them wait years of suffering, putting them knowingly at risk of suicide, suffering, death, and violence. Okay? So just in case you have any concerns, that is what's going on. And journalists are trying to figure out where people get their HRT so they can elevate that up to people who want to make it harder for trans people to live their lives fully. But there's good news, which is the Guardian's piece on DIY HRT could not find a single person to talk to. They could not find a single individual to interview about doing DIY HRT. Largely because people had the sense to
Hold on a second. Is that true? Did they not find a single person to interview? What was that article? Concerns over 11 pounds HR sex hormones. The Guardian. Cross-sex hormones designed to masculinize or feminize a person's body are available to buy online for just 11 pounds a month. Experts fear children questioning their gender may turn to hidden economy to obtain hormones illegally. Last month, the landmark CAS review of children's gender treatment in England concluded that there was a lack of reliable evidence supporting the use of cross-sex hormones and puberty blockers by young people questioning their gender identity. As a result, provision of cross-sex hormones to under 18s is under review. The report said that while they can be still made available to patients from the age of 16, they should only be prescribed with extreme caution and a strong clinical rationale for not waiting until an individual reaches 18. The recommendations apply to the NHS and the private sector. While trans adults are often prescribed such hormones, it's illegal to supply the drugs in the UK to adults or under 18s without a prescription. Guardian research found online pharmacies in places ranging from India to Hong Kong and Portugal offering hormone treatments without a prescription, typically ranging from around £10 to £30 for 28 days supplies of a starting dose of feminizing hormones. There is an extensive array of online sellers, some UK-based, who prepare mixtures of hormones themselves, often for injection in a process known as homebrewing. Cross-sex hormones are drugs used to change the body for birth-registered females. Testosterone can be administered by an injection through patches or via gels applied to the skin. According to the CAS review, around 500 people were on these hormones and discharged from the NHS gender identity. Dr. Alison Cave. So I guess we did get one interview. We got one interview. Dr. Alison Cave, the Chief Safety Officer at the UK's Medicines and Healthcare Products Regulatory Agency, said, "Patient safety is our top priority, and we strongly advise that people do not self-prescribe or try to obtain medicines from an unregulated source. Prescription-only medicine may be sold or supplied lawfully in accordance with a prescription issued by an appropriate healthcare practitioner. It is also illegal to sell or supply unauthorized medicines. The MHRA had not authorized any medicines for the treatment of gender dysphoria," she added. Dr. Aidan Kelly, a clinical psychologist who left GIDS in 2021, has since set up a private service, said he worried that people in desperation will access care in unsafe ways. "We are already seeing patients coming to us where things have not been properly supervised and they have poor outcomes as a result. These are people who have either sought treatment abroad or online." Okay, so he brought some anecdotal evidence from other people. That's 2 interviews. The Bayswater Support Group, which works with parents whose approach have a transgender identity but opposes a gender affirmative approach, said a public information campaign was needed. "Vulnerable children and young adults must be told the truth about puberty blockers and cross-sex hormones. The evidence base is very weak, and there are known risks," a spokesperson said. Maria, so we have another one, and this is a asterisk, so I'm guessing that's a fake one, whose teenage daughter bought testosterone online and later from a drug dealer, said hormones should not be given without a prescription. That's 4 interviews, actually. "That doesn't mean that, therefore, the NHS route should be made easier and that all the safeguarding should be kicked to one side," she said. Maria added her daughter had since detransitioned. "The thing is, my daughter has been left with permanent physical damage from the testosterone that she took illegally off prescription. Permanent damage that will never resolve, that she's got to live with for the rest of her life." There we go. The Trans Safety Network said that since the sharp reduction in referrals to hormone experts for young people from 2020 onwards, there had been several inquests into suicide by young trans people, including judgments finding that the lack of access to healthcare was an aggravating factor. "The near removal of these pathways will lead to young people being exposed to risk and taking measures into their own hands," a spokesperson said. The group also raised concerns about cracking down on the DIY market for hormone therapy, saying it exists because of failures to provide safe, timely, monitored, and supported access to treatment. Any attempt to ban online distributors will further push young people away from the commonly used gray market online pharmacies with legitimately manufactured medications via countries where these medications are available over the counter to less established sources with unknown additional risks, the spokesperson said. The Department of Health said the MHRA monitors online channels and, where possible, works with partners to disrupt the illegal trade in human medicines. "We are looking closely at what can be done to curtail any loopholes, including legislative," a spokesperson. Name has been changed from, that's what I thought, Maria. Damn, they said, they really said, somebody said it. So that's kind of what you get. Never forget. I know it sucks to say, but no one was interviewed. It's wrong. It's wrong. People were interviewed. Like 6 or 7 interviews in there. None of them was your story. That's the case. Gotcha. In my opinion, that's a gotcha. Because Maria. Did you hear about Maria? Her kid did detransition. No, that guy, that doctor said he talked to a bunch of people. They all said, "Oh, it's bad." It sucks, but that's what they're going to do. That's manufactured consent, by the way. As I know it. But yeah, that's not a victory in my mind. That story went out. The story didn't stop. Story went out. Story went out. And anyone who reads that story and doesn't know, like, wow, did you talk to any of the trans people? Yeah, we tried. We tried. We reached out to them. Look at this cute little Twitter thing that they made. It's a little image. Talk about don't talk to us because they thought we were snooping around. Oh, what are we snooping around? Well, yeah. Have you heard? They're doing illegal things, criminal actions with secret drugs. That's what you get. That's. We're talking about public relations, public impressions of stuff, which is you need to win. More. Don't sound crazy. Don't sound dumb. Don't fall off messaging, but not talking to the press. Someone's talking to them. Someone's listening. Someone's reading.
Talk to these bad faith journalists. And we want to keep that up. Okay? We don't want life-saving tools to be destroyed. We don't want more dead and harmed trans people. We want more living, well trans people. And that means we have to get serious about some of this stuff. That means we have to be aware that there are people out there who do not have our best interests at heart. And the good news is a lot of people know that already. I wanted to take some time today to highlight this and to reiterate my positions on HRT, DIY HRT, and talking to the media. Okay? It's
I gotta say
incredibly
wrong.
Important that we
Disagree.
protect
Hard disagree.
those of us who are taking risks in order to make sure that people can live even if they happen to have been born under an oppressive regime. The world in its current state is not hostile to people like myself, to like many of you out there. It's not fair. It's disgusting. It's unjust. But we have to be smart. We have to use our power to preserve this stuff. We have to protect ourselves and look out for one another. And a lot of these journalists, especially people at The Guardian, are not on our side. They might present with a smile. They might act like they're just asking questions.
Here's the other thing. Where's the proof that they did anything wrong? This is badly put together, Demonmama. Where I read their article's not favorable. And they definitely probably have a sign, but like what did they do wrong that you stopped? Like you just didn't. Nobody, I guess, no British trans people got to say they were part of something, and I don't even know if they actually even. The only evidence I have that the Guardian even reached out to any trans people was the little image that somebody made that said "Don't talk to them." You know, like you didn't talk to them, so they didn't do anything against you, really. You know, like if you didn't get misrepresented because you didn't talk to them because you warned everybody not to talk to them, and then they ran an article where your side wasn't represented, they can't you can't blame them for that anymore. You know, and then if you have to just proceed from there with the belief that you're right based on vibes because you just feel like that's the case. I mean, there's no evidence provided here at all. Like literally none. This is just, you just kind of clap. I don't understand. I'd have to be fully explained to this as a person that worked in journalism. I don't understand what the victory here is. I don't understand the victory. I don't know why you're clapping yourself on the back. Like you didn't involve yourself in the process, and so weren't involved in the process. Nothing happened, and the needle did not move forward in your favor. I mean, I guess nobody embarrassed themselves, which is great for as far as that can get thrown down the line. But like, I think I would rather hear an earnest and like maybe not quite perfect trans person stumbling over explaining themselves on Piers Morgan than never see a trans person show up on Piers Morgan. Yeah, I think that's kind of how I boil this down. And I want more and 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 more people out there. I want trans people everywhere. I like you guys. I want you to not die. And I want you to represent yourselves well and not hide on the internet as you're slowly scrubbed from existence in silence. I think that's where this sort of mentality goes. I don't understand whatsoever. I mean, literally, like, and this isn't me saying it can't exist. I'm thinking very hard what the victory here is, because I cannot put it on. You're talking about charitable. I'm still entertaining the victory condition, possibly existing in the next
but those questions
2 minutes.
Get people hurt. We do not want the full brunt of the conservative troglodyte media sphere bearing down on the desperately necessary and limited resources that people need to survive. The trans community is a minority. We are a super minority, okay? We are a very small group of people. There's more of us than most people think, but still, there's not many of us. And there is a cultural derangement towards trans people that is being fueled, like I said, by right-wingers. We have to recognize this and fight back against it. So the lesson of today is don't talk to the media, okay? Don't do it. Don't trust them. They're not on your team, especially in an environment like this. Anyway, thanks for hearing me out. Good news is a lot of people have already learned this lesson, but you should learn it too and take it to heart. Watch out for each other, help each other out, give each other resources, but don't give it to your enemies. Thanks for watching. Make sure you're subscribed down below.
I gotta say, disagree. I think that's an overall L take from Demonmama. I think that's an overall L. Maybe not a capital L, but a very written in stone, lowercase l. Yeah, no, I can't say I agree with any of that. At all. Hope you enjoyed your time on the Westside.